Welcome! In this video we're going to be taking a quick look at Catherine, a epic grade Debuffer class Elune. Looking at her 6-star max level stat, she has a decent HP at 27.3k, with her attack being at 4.2 and her physical and magic defense being at 3.1k apiece. Her attack speed at 109 puts her a little bit on the higher side of the mid-range. She does have a slightly increased crit stat, making her a little bit easier to build for damage. As she is transcended up to the max at +5, she does go up to a quite nice 40.9k HP, her attacks at 6.4k, and her physical and magic defense end at a very decent 4.7k apiece. Looking in at her skills, her first skill is a basic frontline only magic damage skill, dealing 90 plus 95% of her attack. As the skill is leveled up to the max at +6, it will deal 820 plus 130% of her attack as magic damage. This is a decent skill, as it does have other abilities later with her passives. Looking at the special skill, this one is a any target skill. It is a single target, but you can choose anyone front or back line. It is a magic damage skill, dealing 130 plus 140% of the attack as magic damage. This will also steal some soul or rage from the target. It steals twice the amount if it lands as a crit, so giving her a good amount of crit is very helpful. As the skill is leveled up to the max at +6, it goes up to a very decent 1250 plus 191% of attack as magic damage. It also will now steal 2 souls from the target, and steal twice the amount as when landing as a crit, so giving her with a high crit rate means that she can steal 4 souls from the enemy team, making her very good for those PvP situations. Moving in, looking at her ultimate skill is a 6-soul skill. It is an AoE magic damage skill, dealing 110 plus 120% of her attack as magic damage. This also will steal a random buff effect from the enemies whenever the attack lands. Only one of the same effect can be active at any given time, but it increases the damage by 50% for each stolen harmful effect, meaning that as this is an AoE, she can steal multiple debuffs from the enemy team, but she will only gain one of the buffs that she steals. So, for example, if you're attacking a group that is buffed by Wei Wei and all 5 of the enemy Elunes have the Wei Wei buff, she will only gain 1 copy of that buff, but she can still strip it off of all of the enemies. This makes her good at stripping buffs from the enemies, and each time that she steals a buff, she gains more damage, making the skill hit even harder. As the skill is leveled up to the max at +6, it does a very decent AoE damage of 860 plus 163% of the attack. It also goes up to a 2 buff steal, meaning that if they are fully buffed by the Wei Wei for attack and for defense, then she will steal both of those buffs, giving her a very nice increased amount of damage, as it is an AoE, and she will deal more damage to them, making her hit very hard with an AoE while stripping the enemy. Her first passive. The first passive steals a random buff whenever she attacks, and it lands, and it does not miss, meaning that they do not evade the attack. This means that she will strip on every turn with every attack that she does anyway. This makes it so that she can steal even more buffs than the ultimate skill already allows her to steal, because it'll increase that by an extra 1 effect, meaning that if she lands the attack from her ultimate skill on the enemy, she will now steal 3 effects from them and not 2 with the ultimate skill. The special skill, which takes the soul from them, will also strip. Her first skill, that does nothing but magic damage, will also strip 1 effect from them, meaning that she is constantly stripping those buffs from the enemy team and stealing them for herself, keeping herself buffed while debuffing the enemy. Her second passive. This one increases her attack by 20% when she is in possession of 2 or more buffs stolen from enemies. As her first passive steals buffs all the time, and she can do it on an AoE effect with her ultimate skill, this means that she increases her attack even more, because as she steals those buffs, she will increase the attack by 20%. This means that she gets very strong very quickly with her attack. Her third passive. This one inflicts a curse effect on an enemy who has had 2 or more buffs stolen, throwing them into a state of despair for 2 turns. The number of buffs stolen returns to 0 after the status effect disappears, meaning that once she steals two or more buffs from an enemy, either on a single or multiple turns, that they will now go into a curse effect status of despair. But this effect does end once that status effect is over, and it will reset back to 0, and you'll need to steal 2 more buffs from them for this effect to apply again, meaning that you cannot just keep reapplying it to them. Basically, the counter will reset every time that this buff happens. But this is good, as it is another way to help CC the enemy or to do something to them that can cause some problems for them, as despair is a decent effect. Looking in at the skill gem effects for Catherine, her base one is a magic damage crit, and a 5% chance to seal the target for 1 turn. As a skill, because of the passive, already does a buff stealing thing, and that can apply more to her, and she does a decent amount of damage. Going with the recommended blue-orange for the increased magic damage and crit is a decent option. However, you can opt to go for even more damage if you go with the full blue set, or a more crit rate option and go for the full orange set, or anything that you choose. The 5% chance to seal is a low chance, but it is an additional debuff that she can land if you choose to go that route, as the skill gems recommended here aren't bad, and changing it to anything else is more of a preference thing and doesn't really help too much. Looking in at her special skill, the recommended here is blue-orange-orange. This one has a 5% chance of reducing the target's maximum HP by 10% for 2 turns. This is, again, a very low chance. As this skill, though, does gain an effect that doubles the amount of souls stolen if it crits, going with a more crit build on this one is a good option. So going with a full orange set on this one does make this skill even more effective, as stealing more souls from the enemy makes it even better, because those souls apply to your team and will be taken away from the enemy team. Looking in at her ultimate skill, the recommended is blue for the damage, the orange for the crit rate, and the violet for the speed. This has a chance of restoring 1 soul by 10%. As this chance is not that great, it is up to you if you want to go with it, as this is an AoE skill. Going with perhaps more damage on it, the blue effect for the extra magic damage might be a good option, as this skill is capable of doing very significant damage. Looking at her dimension slate, things that you wouldn't want to focus on her. Crit rate is very good for her, as it very directly applies to her second skill's ability to double the amount of souls taken. Her attack is also very good for her, as she is a very good attacker and increases her attack. You do want to, however, get some physical magic defense and HP. Accuracy is also a big plus for her, as you will need it to land those debuffs. The attack speed for her is worth getting, as you want her to move quickly and steal whatever you can. Having her move first in a team to steal the souls from the enemy, especially with a very high crit rate, means that you can steal up to 4 souls from the enemy on your first turn, making it so that they, instead starting with 5 souls, end up starting with only 1 soul. This really can disrupt the flow of their team, especially if they have everything planned out and the souls already calculated. This means that you can disrupt the entire flow of their team and make it so they can do nothing more than use their skill 1s.
주사가 필요한 환자는
Gear for Catherine, this is varies and depends greatly on what you want to do with her. If you want to use her as an attacker, then you would want to go with more attack. However, as she is going to be landing debuffs and things, then the full moon set is a recommended thing, as you want to give her the ability to land that. Accuracy is important to her, so make sure that you do some of that. The necklace, of course, for her from the full moon set is definitely recommended, as it does increase the debuff rate for any skills. And going with anything that increases her attack is also good, because increasing her attack to make her hit harder can be very helpful to your team, as that she is a very good damage dealer, because as she steals buffs for herself, she becomes quite strong, as it also increases her attack and increases the damage output and multiplier of her ultimate skill. Catherine is a very good stripper for the AoE stripper for the entire team, as well as single target stripper, as she has the ability to strip as an AoE with her ultimate skill, as well as stripping every turn with her other skills. She also is very good at controlling the souls of the enemy team, making her a very good PvP option. As such, she can control the souls from the enemy team by reducing them and gaining them for your team, allowing your team to have even more souls constantly to use their special attacks and ultimate abilities almost all the time. This makes her very good for doing those type of effects to the enemy team, and also makes her very good as a damage dealer. She can be useful in PvE situations too, where you need a debuffer to do certain things, but as her main goal is a stripper, most of the time you will not have to worry about stripping many effects from bosses. However, she is still a good magic damage dealer, as she does increase the damage that she dealt, and some things do gain buffs, so stripping those buffs with her is a good thing. Her second ability for stealing the soul and rage from things too is helpful, as she can get that to your team to increase the abilities that they have, making it easier to spam those abilities, as you will have more soul and more rage to use. Overall, Catherine is a very good Elune for a debuffer class and for an epic grade. She has a very good skill kit that makes her very useful in PvP situations and somewhat useful in PvE situations. She is very strong, and some people have noticed that, so some of the meta for quite a while was with Catherine's in the defenses, as she was very good at stripping those buffs from the Weiweis after they buffed them, and then as such she would also do massive damage to them. After Trent came into the meta, and he was able to strip all buffs too, and do damage while stripping the buffs and be a healer, he has replaced her in many aspects, but some people still don't have Trent, or don't have meta high enough transcendence level to be very good at higher level PvP, so using Catherine is still a very viable alternative, as she is capable of stripping and reducing the souls of the enemy team, as well as applying debuffs. So she does have uses in the current meta, depending on what your box is for what Elunes you have at for your disposal, but she has been replaced in most of the meta by the Trent. However, Catherine still is unique in her ability, as that she absorbs the buffs and she does not take them away from your team like Trent does. Trent will strip all the buffs from your team as well as the enemy team while healing and doing damage. Catherine instead will just steal the buffs from the enemy team while doing high damage to them. So this does put her in another unique position. She does not heal, but she will do a lot of damage, meaning that you can bring her with another healer, such as if you have a Freya, you can bring the Freya with her and have a very good AoE healer, as you wouldn't need Trent at that point. She is also much easier to obtain than Trent, as she is an epic only, and you can get her from various methods. That's going to be it for this one. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Leave them below and I'll answer them as soon as possible. Thank you.